What's going on, guys? Welcome again to another episode of Real Talk. We try to keep it real. This is P here.
Ian?
And this is Jay. And it's another week and another talk in the nice, cozy month of November where there's storms and rain, everything. Hopefully, none of y'all lost power and weren't woken up by thunder or whatever.
We lost power in this area yesterday.
Oh, did you?
Here?
This apartment was fine, but right next door and just the entire block out.
Oh,
It's
you're
completely dark.
you were blessed.
Yeah.
There were
My
parts.
brother-
Sorry, go on.
No, I was just gonna say my brother was not spared. Like,
Yeah. Oh man, parts of Richmond was like down too. But then I think the crew went back up and started going to work, so it was up by the time I was out driving. But this bomb cyclone it's so weird. All these ways to describe these new, weather phenomena. Bomb cyclone, atmospheric river. Like, what the heck is atmospheric river? But yeah, just like what Jay was saying, just hope everyone's safe out there, and it never hurts to keep an emergency pack around.
Yeah. Did you guys lose power?
No, we were safe.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were okay there.
Nice. Something that crossed my mind maybe a few days ago was something that I guess most people don't usually take into account when meeting new people, or even thinking about with the people in their lives is, I guess, what standards do you have when it comes to new or current relationships or friendships, I guess more specifically. So I was wondering if you guys have any specific standards you can think of when it comes to people in your lives.
I think it's a good question actually, because you kind of subconsciously think about that with anyone you meet, right? And the first thing, if I was to answer your question, it's just sort of a level of grace, right? Because a lot of times you meet a stranger, there's no preconceived notions. You try to be nice. You try to, be friendly. Of course, if you have a sort of faith-based background or lifestyle, then of course, like myself being Christian, not that you try to hard sell the Bible, but of course you try to mimic the way Christ is, right? But in terms of like a friendship, a lot of I give people benefit of the doubt, and obviously with someone who I've met maybe for a year, just continue to get to know them, continue to learn the quirks, the goods and the bads, because not everything is rosy, right? And at times when I've met, and when you have relationships where they go for years, like Jay, even longer with Mac here, there tends to be way too much grace that I'm willing to give, but of course you guys give me the same grace back, so I appreciate and love you guys for that. So yeah, I mean, friendships too, it's one of those funny things too, that I didn't believe it at first, but it is true. As you get older, you do kind of have to choose who you hang out with. It's just a reality, because it does shape who you are, right? There's a statistic that says, for the 5 people you put around you, you're generally gonna be around what a combination of the 5 people are like, right? I think good and bad. Usually it's good. If it's bad, you would have weaned this person out already, unless you care for them or they've been in your life, or like they're kind of like that cockroach that doesn't go away. So you just kind of stuck with them, like, okay, right? But that's kind of usually how I see friendships and people that I meet. And it's not like I don't want to alienate people and close doors. It's just really the people that I want to keep in contact with, either daily or weekly or monthly, is the people that I want to be able to support, but also speak into my life as well, and also have same kind of life goals, right? Because essentially I strive to grow, but also at the same time is what is it about community life, right? Because Bible always talks about living in community, but what does that look like, right? How do you foster that?
True. How about you, Ian?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking over everything while you guys were talking, and I don't really know what to get into on this because I feel like I never try to define it. Like, I feel like every single friendship I have is pretty unique, and I don't I like to see where it kind of goes on its own. Um, uh, yeah, like in terms of a standard, I don't really um, yeah, I don't really, what I just feel like, when whoever you're with, like, if one thing doesn't work out in terms of exploring that friendship, it's always worth trying other things, right? There's always things to kind of explore together, and see where we connect, as friends. And I don't know, I'm still thinking through that. I think this is just something that, we're gonna dig into further throughout this conversation. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. Like, is there, I guess, maybe a better way to re-question it is like, what are some things that would automatically say like no for me? Like, if someone came into your life and they're, you're giving them the benefit of the doubt, you're going through a process of getting to know them. What are some things like, oh, this person might not be for me?
That is, I try to, I don't know, I kind of have, and like, I don't know if this is like sort of me sort of not doing like I feel like, when you encounter people that are just, that you don't really understand, or are more difficult, I guess, like, that is, in a sense, that's sort of a challenge. You know like, I don't know how to put this. I just feel like I don't really have a point. Like, I'm not really looking for a cutoff, in a sense, right? Like, I guess another way to put it is like, when you come across someone that's like very different, or very sort of like they stand out because they're just sort of an abrasive person. Like, part of you wonders why that's the case, right? You're always like, that's part of what makes it interesting. Like, why, like, like, that's yeah, like, I don't know how to put it. Like, like, I guess at that point, you're not really thinking you're not really thinking so much as whether they're friendship material, as why they tick the way they do. But like, I think there's a part of that where you're looking upon it as, you're curious about another person, and part of what drives that is, like, that old-fashioned idea of what it means to love your neighbor, or to understand people, or to live in community. Like, you don't really you're not really thinking about a cutoff point as much as it is like, you're kind of wondering how this all fits in together, I guess. I know that I don't know if I don't know if I don't have a cutoff point because I haven't thought far enough to realize I do have one, or
right.
Yeah, I don't know. So that's sort of what I'm thinking at the moment.
No, that's a good point, of being curious. I think it's always good to be curious and maybe find out something about that person. I think, though, for me, since I'm the one that thought of this topic, I probably thought about it a little bit more. I think a few things are, like P said, growth oriented, like someone that wants to be better and learn. Someone that is, I don't want to say open-minded, but like they're able to grasp the concept of perspective, and kind of see if we don't share the same perspective, but still understand and willing to accept that. And then I think the third thing for me would be just the effort in maintaining the relationship. I think, if I'm giving a certain level of effort and it's not being reciprocated, then I kind of know, like, not necessarily I won't be friends with them, but like I'll match their level of effort, because I think it's unfair to myself to give more than I'm receiving. Not to say that I think with our values and faith, like, giving is a natural thing, right? But I guess within my own standards of giving too much, I would have to find that line.
I get what you mean.
Yeah.
Like, and I guess it would really depend. Like, if someone were just sort of drawing away or sort of like pulling away for no real reason, and like, and you know them, like, they're sort of a close friend to you, like, you're probably more inclined to sort of lead in a bit and figure out why. But if it's just someone you're just sort of acquainted to,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Like, if it was one of you guys and for some reason you guys are not as active, I would be concerned, right? Because maybe something's wrong. Like, I just want to make sure you guys are good, because I've known you guys for a while, and having something that is not so common happening, that would be an alarm for sure.
If I don't ever reach out in a month, I probably murdered.
I mean, I think that goes the same with me. So, good to know. Good to know. Yeah, that was just something that I had in mind, because I think not too many people think about that when they're with the people in their lives. It's like, okay, like, what is good for me and what is, like, where am I drawing the line, right? Because growing up, I used to think everyone was my friend. I don't know if you guys had the same ideals.
I wasn't as fortunate.
No?
Yeah, I was sometimes that kid who was picked last for dodgeball.
No, I think like I would think acquaintances were friends. So I think there was one time I had the very rude awakening, that moment where I kind of realized, like, oh, so I think it was maybe my 21st birthday or one of my birthdays, and I invited all these people, and it was me, partially me being immature and like just not really grasping what was going on, but I would assume that the majority of people would show up. Rude awakening, less than 25% showed up, and that was kind of like, okay, I gotta reassess here, like, and kind of pick up on when people aren't necessarily giving the same level of effort as I am. So yeah,
it's very interesting because when you talk about and thanks for sharing that, because even that's new to me. It also kind of depends on one's sort of objectivity or like level, a tolerance level of forgiveness. Because I was just going to say too that I don't think it's the quantity of the friendship, but also the quality, right? Because there's people in my life too where I've known since elementary, since childhood, but then maybe we have disconnected because of just life. You grow apart, and that's normal, and then somehow things find a way that God just says, okay, you guys are now back in each other's circles. What do you want to do with it now, right? If it was me in that situation, I would be like, okay, I will continue this friendship. Maybe it's similar to what Mac is just saying, that you keep an open mind because you don't know where it goes, right? Whatever the circumstances, whatever the external situation is, you just take it because your door is never really shut, unless of course there are core values that bump off of you. Like if this person is a polygamist, or if this person's like okay with being, a masochist. I'm like, okay, there's some things like, if you're constantly trying to force an agenda, not just those examples I just mentioned, then there that needs to be kind of with a caution, right? But because I was gonna kind of go with the idea that what is the longest friendships or people you've known have for like in your entire lives? How long has that been versus someone who has entered your life in the past few years, but you've really got to know and realize, wow, that's actually kind of cool to have that kind of people around.
Yeah, no, I can see where you're coming from. Like, I think off the top of my head, you're probably the longest friendship that I've had that I haven't cut off yet.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a sad meter.
But yeah, like on the other hand, like quality of friend, like I met people recently that I would consider to be a pretty good friends with because we vibe on the same level. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you in the fact that the quality definitely matters in lieu of the quantity. How about you? What's the longest you've had a friend? I'm sure it's longer than I've had with this guy.
or a few. I'm not trying to compare just one person.
Well, I have a couple buddies in high school. We don't connect as much like in recent years. But we still, when we do connect, it's things just pick up where they left off, and and mostly because he's moved away to Abbotsford, and I don't know. I find I don't know what to say about this because I feel like I don't usually feel like I've anyone's like truly gone in my life. Like I have like I don't know. It's it just feels like that we've sort of there's sort of a distance at the moment, but it's a distance that's not like it's not a random distance. They're just things in life right now that are everyone's kind of going through, and or and when we are at a different point in life, that will probably things will change again, and I don't really see it as like I don't really have a sense that I've lost anything or that I'm yeah I yeah, like I mean that like yeah, like I mean the friend, pretty much all my friends like have just always sort of kind of been with me in a sense, like I think about friends in the past, and I think about friends that I haven't talked to in a long time, or maybe might have just sort of vanished from my life, and which do feel a bit more arbitrary, but even that I feel like there will probably be a point where things will just reconnect, because I mean, do you ever really stop being a friend to anybody? Like, I mean, does I mean, the only reason you would think your friendship stops is because you feel that you can't connect together for some reason, but that changes so fast, right? Like you never know, like there might just be a moment when you realize why did that stop. I don't really understand, like I don't, yeah, so that's why I just don't feel like things ever really stop, like people go through things, but it doesn't necessarily mean people change, right? It's still the person you knew, and you had amazing times with, and and there will be a point when you just kind of look at that and long for that again, because there was nothing wrong with that, like when you had that friendship, and things sort of change. It was more like things come in life that sort of distract you from that sort of magical moments, right? But when the distractions sort of fade away, you're going to be questioning what we held on to, or what we sort of prioritize that sort of took us away from that, right? Because nobody wants to be disconnected, right? And nobody wants a friendship to end, like, especially when you sort of experience like that amazing connection, right? Like yeah, it's weird, that we as a people, or that people can that we let things come into our lives that sort of take us away from that. But in our quiet moments, we always come back to the point where we're just like, I don't know what happened, right? Like, yeah,
It's like it does take two to tango. I mean, in a way, friendship is pretty much, a dance where, if both parties, like what Mac was saying, that they originated from that way they are, and growing up, nothing's changed. They come back, all good times again, right? But then life has its way, and I think it does take two sides, because, like Mac was saying, if it falls off the map, objectively speaking, I think it's from either party, right? Something
did change, but it shouldn't have, in a sense, like,
right? But and so then that would if life has it that they end up reconnecting, then you get a chance to, I think redeem is a very strong word, but it's a chance to reconnect and figure out kind of what happened, right? And then that's where you really can forge that friendship even stronger, or then you realize, okay, maybe the ties actually weren't strong enough to actually keep it together, right? I think in a way that's not to dismiss that friendship or whatever that is altogether, but just to accept the circumstance, right?
I think there's like something I've learned, there's maybe not like tiers of friendship, but like, there's different levels for sure, like from acquaintances to like best friends, right? The people that come in and out of your life are one type of friend. Like, you can be close with them, but then chat 3 months later and you still good, right? And then there's friends that you see every day. So I think having maybe not an expectation, but just kind of figuring out where they lay in your life, and what you can expect of them, I guess, so that you're not overhyping what they are or underselling them. I think, at least for me, that's what I'm trying to get at when I'm trying to meet new people. Completely lost my train of thought where I was going to go with that. Yeah.
We were talking about.
Oh, I know. I guess I'm the type. I'm a ride or die person. Like, if someone, a friend in my life, is a good friend with me, like, I will be there regardless of, if I have prior commitments, if something in my life is going on, I will drop all of that to, if you need something, I'm there. So I think it's definitely unfair of me to expect that of other people, because not everyone's like that. That's a realization.
Like, I think in the end, everybody, that's what everybody wants to be, right? Like, everybody, they want to be, like, they want to be they want to have that kind of relationship, right? Everybody wants to be, to understand how, like, or to be in a place where they'd have that kind of friendship, right? Like, where you're so, you have something like incredible, like, you're sharing something together that's incredible, and it's worth, preserving, and just exploring together, and the more you have of that with people, like, it can only be better, right? Like, everybody wants that, but I feel like in a sense, like, it's as if the modern world in a way has sort of convinced itself that you have to prioritize other things. I mean, we're always, everybody in the modern world is just so distracted.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, I think
but
we,
yeah.
yeah, I think we talked about that on a previous podcast where, like, everyone's looking for the next thing, right? And
So here's the interesting part is, and of course it's open discussion, where does your loyalty lie? What is your sense of loyalty? Because I think that has to be asked, right? And where does that come from, right? Because you can't, because the thing is, like, not imagine, but there are people out there who will jump from circle to circles, or just social butterflies, right? They like to meet different people and just chat with people, and like it's just and this is not to take a shot at said individuals. It's just a reality, right? Where you go around, you create all these great I guess friendships or connections, but it's like the roots aren't very deep, right? And if you maybe in like Jay's case, where for him to realize, oh wow, maybe these friends aren't actually go as deep as they are. Like you need these like weird kind of crisis moments to realize that, right?
mm-hmm.
And then you realize, okay, I gotta reevaluate this. And then you maybe have one or two friends who just for so long, they basically know the size of your underwear, for example. To put it frank.
I mean, I hope you don't know the size of my underwear.
No thanks, man. I don't tend to. Right?
So I guess that's how close we are.
I'm putting as long as a baseline. That's what I will not cross. Right? It's like the idea of loyalty. It just because like go on.
No, I was just gonna say that's a tough one, because no, I mean, I agree. You should be loyal, right, to your friends, and like, but at the same time, what, in a sense, what makes a friendship, right? Like, like in a way, when you guys are together, like in a sort of sharing moments as friends, like in a way, like when, like in those moments, when you're there with your friends and going through life together, like in those moments you're not really thinking about each other, right? In a way, right? You're sort of experiencing life together. Like you're going to a concert together because you both will sort of enjoy like the music together, and like it's gonna be an awesome experience because you know the lyrics to all the songs, and you guys can like go crazy over the same riffs and stuff, and or like you're in a car and like you're on a road trip, and like you're just telling each other like crazy funny stories, and like when you're telling the stories, like you're not trying to make the other person laugh. Like you're both laughing because the story's funny, right? And you both sort of recognize, that just together, just how truly hilarious or amazing that story is, right? Like, I mean, the point is, when you're like like when you're sort of in the moments and you're not sort of looking at it, sort of trying to dissect it, like you realize that you're not really thinking about each other. You've just kind of forgotten about each other, right? Like you're not thinking about yourself, and you're not thinking about your friend. Like you're together, you're sort of like celebrating things, right? Like, and so when so when something sort of compromises that that sort of I don't know if you would call it chemistry, or your that whatever configuration you have there, like in a sense, like you have to, in a way, you have to make a decision about whether you'll sacrifice everything to preserve that, or whether you'll sort of look into what sort of compromise that setup, and fix, or what sort of threw that off, because it's the difference between turning your friend into an idol versus, you know, helping your friend work things out, right? Like, and get things back into the right place. And so, you know, what does it mean to defend your friend, right? Like, in a very real sense, it could mean letting them go. And you wouldn't be doing it for them, or you wouldn't be doing it for the friendship. Like, you'd be doing it because, like, well, in order to preserve the friendship, like, you have to set, you know, you have to put your foot down in a sense and say that, you know, like, you've broken, you know, you're putting things into place that
Boundaries.
yeah, well, boundaries, I guess you could say it's boundaries. Like, you know, like, yeah, like, the things, it could be boundaries, but it could be like, you know, for example, like, you know, suppose your friend was like, you know, just like, is not a good husband or something, and, you know, they're like just being, you know, they're like, you know, they're just sort of, you know, frustrated, I guess, that, you know, the wife has all these expectations, or they're putting expectations on the wife, and, you know, and it's hurting, like, you know, you know, the friendship sort of becomes sort of an escape, but you know that, like, you know, these things have to be dealt with, right? That has to be the priority, right? And, you know, sure, we can sort of escape into fun moments in the friendship, but, you know, it doesn't, you know, like, a part of your duty, in being a friend is to reinforce that, you know, your friend has to prioritize that first, right? Like, you know, and, you know, to get sort of the house ordered properly, and, you know, because it, you know, like, the friendship can only grow and do better, you know, as you sort of, you know, explore these things together, and recognize, like, that is a part of the friendship, right? You know, that's part of what it means to go through these experiences together, and yeah.
Like, they can't be their best self if, you know, other things in their life are falling apart, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I can see where, you know, you have to be there for them, if they're having a hard time, if that was what you're trying to get at.
Yeah, I mean, like there's so a million examples of what, you know, people can sort of put first, and sort of compromise, like, the setup of the friendship, you know, and yeah.
Can I jump in?
Oh yeah, no,
because
no.
One of the beautiful things, like, and it's interesting that, because, wow, hearing this is like really raw, because just kind of understanding what Mac is, the idea about friendship, it's accountability, right? Because you're holding a standard that's clearly objective, and you're like, hey, I can't be hanging out with you because you gotta make sure that your wife and your kids are, like, fed and, like, healthy. You gotta make sure that's fine too. Hanging out, would love to, would more than I would do anything, but, you know, certain priorities that they have to deal with, right? And that's a huge quality that in some ways has kind of lost the art form, because we prioritize so much of ourselves, our fun, or whatever Jay was saying. Is just the idea about, you know, what's the next thing. You it's this sort of cycle of greed, but then it's about self-satisfaction. But real friends, brotherhood, sisterhood, whatever it is, you know, you go beyond that. You guys, okay, there's always gonna be something there. Like, you guys will, like I mentioned, you know, as humbly speaking, as pleasant it is for me to be around your lives, sometimes it's, like, okay to say, hey, You gotta stop being a cockroach. Like, you're always gonna be here. I'm always gonna be here. Get your house in order. Get your job in order, and then we can go hang out, right? And so accountability is like so huge, and and that's so vital. I think loyalty sorry, what was I just saying? Accountability. Thank you. Is just such a fundamental aspect, I think, in the basis of friendship, right? And then of course when you bleed into a relationship, it's funny because I had a question of mine is, where at that point where you like like this is obviously now speaking for opposite gender, where you like, where can this go next, right? Like, have you guys been in a situation where and of course those who are listening, you can feel free to comment or add to this yourself to have experienced it, but we're at a point where you saw a friendship like, should I risk going further with this knowing that I might lose this friendship, right? Or whatever.
Do you have? I can go if you don't have anything off the top of your head.
I'm thinking over everything.
Okay, yeah, I'll let you think. I think. Well, I've had. What was it? 3 exes. 2 of them, I'm the one that asked them out. So for the 2 of them that I asked them out, I think.
And you've been friends like for a while.
Yeah, I think for the first 2 we were definitely friends first. Third one was coworker, which is a thing, but yeah, I think the question I asked myself for the second one, I know I can remember that, is I was sitting in my car actually, and I was just thinking it over because I was having those thoughts like, I like this person, but do I want to be in a relationship with them? And it was a weird thought process. I don't know if it was like the correct one, but
that's so interesting.
It was
like, are you thinking...
would I be upset if my best friend was dating them? If the best friend asked them out before I did? I'm like, yeah, I think I would. And that's what made my decision. And then I asked her out like that day.
So it was an external. So you like, I had to beat this guy with a punch.
It was a hypothetical.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't like an actual thing, but it was just like in theory, like if this happened.
Sure.
But if I think the romantic feelings were just more than that of a friendship. It was like, okay, I don't know if I gave it any thought about losing the friendship. It was just like, these feelings I have, I would rather pursue that than a friendship. Yeah. Yeah. Are you still thinking, or?
I mean, yeah.
I can keep going.
Well, that's added a degree of complexity.
Oh, okay.
Because now you're thinking of whether to take to take a friendship to a next level, right? So
right.
Yeah.
It's very common. I think it happens, right? Like even the best of us. Because it's just it normally takes its course, especially when you're driving so well, you know the person, and it's just, it becomes a question where, suddenly when you start to have these manifested feelings, right? And no, I'm not talking about lust, but like, it's
I wasn't thinking that, but
for those who are putting that into the equation, right? I'm gonna throw it there, super self-aware, that it does. You beg the question, right? And I'm saying this because I asked myself that. I'm like, okay, could I jeopardize this, right? And thinking about it out loud, and like, actually, I don't think I ever thought about whether or not I was going to lose the friendship. It was going to be like, I'm just going to go for it and then see what happens, right? And weirdly enough, when I had enough doors closed, actually the one time when I think I asked my very first ex, and I just knew that I wasn't even going to see her. I was like, okay, well, let's just see what happens, right? And so I asked her, and then of course it didn't work out. But then I was like, all right, I didn't expect how things transpired, of course, and then yeah, and then the other times where I've tried to ask people out, it just weirdly enough, it just somehow by God's grace, even when those doors were closed, a friendship was still kind of there. It wasn't awkward when we reconnected. It was okay. Like things were kind of normal, right? There was a bit of a quiet gap for sure, but after seeing the individuals, it was kind of fine. They just even hugged it out. You know, one of them got invited to the wedding. It was all good. I was happy with both of them. It was, yeah, it was like, pretty sweet, right?
I don't think I have not been rejected, so there's still that. It's gonna happen at some point. Hopefully not, but I think yeah, the first 2 times were my first 2 exes, and then the third time she asked me out. But yeah, I've never been rejected, so never had that experience of still being friends with someone that I've asked and didn't work out.
Well, thanks.
No, I didn't ask you out.
No, man. We wouldn't have worked out anyway. No. No. Any more thoughts, Mike?
Not so much. I mean, I have nowhere near as much experience as you guys. I mean, yeah, my life has just been so like complicated, and I mean, mentally I struggled a lot. So I've just never had, it's been pretty difficult for me to get into anything. But I mean, like one of the things I guess which is kind of relevant is that's held me back is, when it comes to sort of a romantic relationship is because I've gotten really close to a lot of girls but I think of them as friends. And I mean, even though I do find myself like attracted to a number of them, but I have this sense that, we're meant to be friends. And I think, something that C.S. Lewis said that sort of colors my understanding of this. And I do feel like I am being, led towards someone very specific. So I feel like I'd just be wasting my time, trying to pursue anyone else. But, that aside, like, I feel like, C.S. Lewis had sort of pointed out that, of all the loves, there are, friendship is the greatest of the 4 loves, right? Like it's much more valuable than romantic love in a sense, like, because, in a sense, romantic love is sort of a very selfish thing, right? Because, it's 2 people sort of looking at each other and sort of like having a sense of completion through, through, just being able to experience that sort of sense of completion through each other. But, friendship, you're sort of looking at something else side by side, right? You're not looking at each other. It's sort of a selfless love. And I mean, it's to a degree that, like, I mean, I see these friends and I just feel like, I already have this sense that, we're not, like, really meant to be together. And I feel like I'd just be taking them away from someone else, and I value their friendship so much. I mean, I regret even going out with my first girlfriend because I feel like that's hurt our friendship. I don't know, like that's just how it's played out for me, and that's,
So a question for you.
Yeah.
So what it feels like to, I guess, not want to ruin a friendship, right? Like you like them, but like it's not worth the risk, or to say. How do you think you would know if it would be different with someone, like that you would be really willing to risk the friendship? Like, do you have an idea of kind of what that might be like, or because just to put it out there, like if you stay in this mindset, then you might pass on the one.
Yeah, I understand.
So yeah, that's why I wanted to ask, like, do you have like an idea of like kind of what might be different with the one?
Well, I guess that's the interesting thing, right? Like, I feel like the more I sort of listen to this sense, that's guiding me to not waste time with these girls that I have a sense I'm not sort of meant to be together anyways. It sort of gives me a better sense of who I'm being, driven towards, and if it, I don't know. For all I know, this could just end up with me, completely missing out. It's possible, and I'm not young, right? So.
No, you're still young.
But no, it's not. I know I'm not, but I don't care either. So, but I feel like this is it sort of refines my sense of the right direction as I sort of don't waste my time knowing that it's not going to be going in a certain direction. The thing is, there's so many things I'm exploring in life, and this is just a part of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's helped, as I sort of listen to this, as I listen and work out the best way to approach things, not just sort of romantically or in friendship, but also in work and in sort of the interests I have in life, you sort of get a better feel of what actually leads, get somewhere, what actually will go in a meaningful direction versus having all these crazy experiences that end up just really not actually leading anywhere or doing anything for anyone. I don't know. I feel like I'm still processing everything we've been talking about, and we've kind of jumped into this topic, and I like being able to think through all of these things for days on end, and then sort of. I don't like wasting words, and I feel like I've sort of just thrown a bunch of stuff out.
That's fine. Yeah, I mean, like we said before, it's when we talk about stuff, it gives us stuff to think about, right?
Yeah,
to reflect on.
I find
Keeping
it
it
easier
real.
to talk to you guys. It's sort of coherent at some level.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
I don't know.
I take your comment with high esteem, and because for all the decades when I say decades, it's quite literal.
Yeah.
I've known you. I've known you to be a thinker and sort of a philosopher in that sense. And hearing you quote C.S. Lewis, man, that's just it's so classic. This is what you're talking about when you have those moments of a friendship, whether we're talking about C.S. Lewis or talking about WWE or our three kind of or what do you call it? The synergy when the Star Wars comes together.
Yeah.
That's sort of the unspoken bit, right?
Yeah, those small things that we're all into, and we can just say one thing and we'll get it.
Man.
Whether
we could do a whole episode just quoting Star Wars.
just memes.
That'd be very boring, guys.
I don't know. I think I know tons of people who could just get into
we should have an episode where we're trying to count how many we can fit into the whole the whole podcast.
Okay, fine, yeah.
I don't know if you guys would be interested in that. That would be definitely.
That could
or
some people off.
Yeah, you can take a shot every time one comes up.
No, man, our podcast is giving me one of the entertainment things. That's great. Yeah.
I mean, speaking of fighting, did you guys watch the fight, the Jake Paul?
Oh, Jake Paul, Mike Tyson. Yeah, that was heavily scripted.
Yeah.
I was just talking to my my archery instructor teacher about this because really enough, I was shooting at the range on Friday, and then they were talking about the fight. I'm like, oh right, I have Netflix on my phone, whatever, unlimited data. My S23 has a great battery life. No unsponsored plugin, by the way.
Sponsored this guy.
Yeah, and then we were watching the fight. Right, it was so stupid. You guys, Mac, you didn't see it, right? But
I saw clips. Well, I didn't see it because I thought it was probably going to be kind of dumb to begin with.
Okay, so with that preface, what do you guys think, other than it being dumb?
Yeah, it was pretty much how I thought it was going to turn out. Tyson, had a good first 2 rounds because, just adrenaline. But the reality of the situation is he's like 30 years older than him, right? So he's going to run out of energy.
I mean, it felt like, the very fact that they did that, it felt like it was just going to be basically completely staged. At some level, because it's hardly a fair fight. Like,
I think Paul could have knocked him out at any time.
Yeah.
But like, for the money and the ratings, like he couldn't do that, and I'm sure he didn't want the heat on knocking out like a 60-year-old guy.
Yeah.
So interesting you bring it this point. Actually, interesting is a tagline for me. I see it from the other perspective, actually, because, and I'm watching all these you guys on Instagram and whatnot, and you can play the footage. These guys aren't trying to sell like a subjective narrative. If you go back and watch the fight, like, it's true, it's not an endurance game for Tyson. Tyson does not need to go 8 rounds, but apparently he needed to get there to get the payout, because suddenly,
that's what I heard.
So suddenly, because his net worth is 10 mil, shot up to 30 mil now over one night in that fight. And in moments of that, like I think you saw, as Jay was mentioning, the first 2 rounds, if Tyson actually wanted to, he actually could have knocked Jake out. There were multiple shots where he could have, and he pulled back.
Yeah.
He definitely pulled back. So I'm like, yo.
Some of the clips I saw, like, they were, like, it was pretty good. Like, he could have put up pretty, and he probably did put up a pretty good, like, he hit his own pretty well, from what I could see. Yeah.
Tyson.
Yeah, he won the first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
Like, if he actually like went balls to the wall and like started swinging, he probably could have knocked him out.
I don't think Tyson needed to swing, because when he was like, if you watch the training videos, even recent stuff, dude,
he was just going ham.
Yeah, he was like, dude, I won't even mess with the guy. Like, even though he's old, if he connects a punch, that's like being hit by a truck. Like, he's got 300 pounds up behind that fist, right? And when he was like showing, I think, videos preparation, I'm like, dude, this guy's like, he's getting chiseled again, right? And so, I think in part, but mind you, half the planet also in a way wanted to watch Jake get his ass beat, because this guy's such a joke, right? I mean, that's the whole point of it too. I would have loved Tyson to knock his ass out, right?
Yeah.
Just because it's not to hate on haters, but it's just kind of the reality, right?
I would have loved to have been able to buy into the fight, like, to see, like, to not have sort of this mental baggage where I feel like it's just a publicity thing. I don't know.
It basically turned out to be like that.
That is, right?
Yeah.
Like, even in Ip Man 3, when Tyson was in there, like, he was spending long days filming those scenes, right? And he was going hard, and I find it hard to believe that he couldn't muster up at least that amount of energy for 1 round. Like,
and Ip Man 3 came out like 5 years ago, so it wasn't that long. Right? The guy's still in his prime. It's interesting that Jay brought this up, because this is the same conversation I had with my instructor. If you watched him in Ip Man 3, even Donnie Yen had to watch, because the choreography had to be right. One false move, he would have been knocked out, because Tyson, and he got close. Apparently there was a stunt when in one of the shots, his back was facing the punching bag, and so Tyson's already in like sort of muscle memory mode, right? And there was a fist that luckily Donnie dodged in a split second, and he felt like the fist grazed his hair, and you can hear this interview's out there, right? And he said that if it wasn't that, he would have been out. He was like, nope, that would have been, and that would have ended his shoot, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, Tyson definitely could have destroyed Jake if he wanted to. And you watch back, and he does that classic move. I think he did in the movie too. He does like a jab, and either a left or a right hook. There was an opening in that fight in the first, I think, 30 to 40 seconds where he could have landed that, but he didn't. He held back. It was very visible.
Oh yeah, he pulled back.
He pulled back, and one of them, he's had to use his fist and just push him to the rope. I'm like, you could just hit him. What the heck, right?
I was listening to commentators talk about that, and they were saying like, there are several moments where they could have just ended it. Like, either of them could have,
Like, early, Tyson could have ended him, and then later in the fight, Paul could have definitely, because he has more stamina, right?
Yeah.
And you could tell Tyson was just gassing it in the corner. Like, he was like, it looked like he was like dying.
Oh no.
By like round 6, he basically stood there as a rock.
Oh.
Yeah.
And he just stood there all
biting his glove and everything.
Yeah, pretty much, and just
but I think also like wasn't Jake like a couple inches taller, and he had further reach, right?
True. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's why it kind of turned me off from, like, I didn't feel like it was a proper match. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if
I
it's
don't know.
scripted, I'd rather watch WWE, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, these
Yeah.
are some catchphrases, man.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Or they should have like had some kind of storyline.
yeah. Apparently, Rock is coming back again
Oh.
for another fight against Cody Rhodes.
Really?
Yeah, at WrestleMania.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
that's what I was reading.
I see.
Weird.
Yeah, I mean, they have to bring back all these old guys like was it like the Ruthless Aggression era? Like they got to bring back all these old guys to get the ratings up because nowadays there's not that many like personalities that are really eye catching. Like there's no Stone Cold, there's no Rock kind of figures. Like I think Roman Reigns is like the highest paid wrestler, and he doesn't really do anything for me. Like he doesn't have that charisma.
The problem is that I think WWE has lost the E in it. They've lost the sort of the entertainment value, where the Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression Era, they brought a lot of entertainment value. That's why you got these like crazy things they're doing, people bleeding all over the floor, but of course they can't now because they got worried about ratings, censorship, sensibility. It's totally different. But now with I think Raw under Netflix, that could just blow the lid open because now it's a free, it's fair game, right? But WWE is definitely not as it is because they had to dial it back, right?
Yeah.
Because of the change in society and also kind of what's happening in terms of sensibility, right? Yeah, I mean you can look at both camps there.
Yeah. Like the ratings, I'm sure are fine. Like I'm sure they don't need to revert to the Attitude Era. I'm sure we'll see how it goes with Netflix and with Triple H in charge because he, was in those eras, so he knows what works. So I'm curious to see if he's going to change anything.
Yeah, the McMahon documentary was great. Like even for anyone who isn't a huge wrestling person but is aware of what wrestling was, that actually gets you to understand how it all played out. And then to what you're saying about Triple H, like he became the creative aspect, and so some of the better storylines was coming from him. I was like, oh wow, he actually crafted some things up pretty good, right? Pretty well. And then it was just a testament, I think, of how the passing of torch, because I think maybe Mr. McMahon was starting to get a little bit old and perhaps he wasn't with the times and he was only working with what he knew rather than trying to evolve and be better at his craft, right? Not saying what he did was, I mean, he was ahead of his game at the time, but once you've already, pun intended, that you've gotten ahead of the game, and then when Triple H takes over, then it's like the new game happens, right?
Yeah, Triple H was in charge of NXT.
Yeah.
And he brought NXT to another level. Like NXT just used to be like the minor leagues, right? But now NXT is like on par with like SmackDown and Raw, and like some Raw and SmackDown superstars go and wrestle on NXT. So
yeah, well now NXT and AEW is all under the same umbrella now, right?
is it?
Yeah, I think. Well, I can't speak for All Elite, but NXT for sure is the pipe. Think of it as like in hockey, where you got like the
It's like the minors.
Yeah, the minors. Exactly.
Yeah. That's where all the development happens and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
So it was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if we want to, or I don't know much about wrestling, but I don't know if we want. This might be a bit of a controversial territory to go into, but I don't know. Whenever I think about wrestling now, I think about like Hulk Hogan in the U.S. elections and everything, doing all those like crazy like antics.
No, I didn't see those.
Oh, you didn't see those?
No.
Oh, he was like, he was like so involved in the.
Oh, really?
In the Trump campaign.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Apparently Sylvester Stallone went up there and handed Trump his like first speech, I think, right, when he won.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, Stallone did his bit too. So it's
Yeah.
it's interesting, but
No, but like I mean, like me, like seeing Hulk Hogan there, sort of like I don't really have any, I'm not very political, so I don't really care about any, all this things going on, I guess. But like, it just like it made me think of it as sort of like a wrestling drama almost, like I don't know.
Actually, it's so interesting. I think you really should watch the McMahon
Okay.
documentary
All right.
because when you talk about drama,
All right.
it's essentially that. Like wrestling was just a platform, right?
Yeah.
But or rather, it was an invitation to create drama, to create these like weekly affairs that people will pay to watch because it essentially became a drama, right? So you're actually in some ways they are very much like actors.
Yeah, there's something that was in the documentary was like, you know, a lot of the fans gravitated towards wrestling because wrestling was, you know, playing narratives that necessarily people couldn't say. So like
Interesting.
so like back in Hulk Hogan era, they had like, you know, the Iron Sheik who was Iranian or Iraqi or whatever, right?
Interesting.
And there was a war going on there.
Ah.
And you know, people can't just openly go to work and be like, I hate Iraq, I hate Iran, or whatever,
Holy
right?
cow. Wow,
So
okay.
that's why they use wrestling as an outlet to be like, you know, to cheer against Iraq while Hulk Hogan, the American hero, you know, beat them, right?
Oh, that's so interesting.
So I think that's why what wrestling does well is that they give people an outlet to kind of express themselves where they can't necessarily do in their normal lives, right?
That actually makes so much more sense.
Yeah, that's why they're so successful.
Yeah, but the documentary also covers this part too, where it got too real because when Iraq and or U.S. started really go to war, there was actually tensions happening because of course, you know, you can't just come in there and with guns blazing say, "Yeah, you're American soil," because I'm sure there were probably some prosecution happening to or persecution, sorry, to happening to even the Iraqi people that were in U.S. soil, right? And so, of course, they wanted to avoid actual fights from happening, which I think it still sort of happened. So
Yeah.
they need to dial it back. But yeah, you're right. It became a medium for people to just express something they couldn't, or watch it kind of be personified, and then not have to kind of hold that in, if you will, right? Yeah, very very crazy stuff.
Yeah, definitely worth a watch if you're remotely into.
Yeah, or even just like leave it run in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm hoping, like, once I'm less busy, there's a bunch of things I'm hoping to a bunch of rabbit holes I'm hoping to fall into.
I mean, this past week there's so many shows that came out, like Cobra Kai. That's insane,
Oh, nice.
crazy.
Okay.
Like, I didn't think it could get any better, but
It's very wild.
yeah. And then, you know, Arcane. So there's a few other shows. I think Interior Chinatown. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Oh yeah.
That came out yesterday, I think. Yeah, so there's just a lot of shows that I have to get into.
Yeah, I recently got into Tracker too. It's pretty good, and that's shot in
interesting.
Vancouver.
Oh.
A lot of it is.
What's
Okay.
Tracker?
Tracker is basically it's sort of a different take, and the whole premise is that this guy's really good at he's a rewardist. He calls himself. So he finds lost things, lost people, anything. Like when there are rewards being kind of released in public, it was like, you know, missing my car, missing a person, then they will have a bounty. It's kind of like a bounty. He'll go and collect these things for money, right? But this guy doesn't just operate. Sometimes he'll just kind of throw it in, or just because he does it for a favor or a friend or whatever. It's like he's a guy with a conscience, right? He just has a really interesting set of tools and skills and backgrounds to handle these cases, right? So it's like he's not really a cop, but it has a little bit of the procedural cop kind of investigation going
So
on.
like
Interesting.
a
Yeah.
PI.
That's Interior Chinese? Or
No.
Tracker.
Which is-
That's
oh,
Tracker.
I see,
That's
I see.
Tracker. Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty good.
So it's like he's like a PI kind of.
Sort of.
Not
yeah.
not like Jessica Jones. A little
No,
bit.
no. He's full on like you pay this guy to find this reward, and then he'll only take the money if he has success.
Okay.
If he's properly given you the person or set item. Yeah, it's Justin Hartley from Green Arrow, Smallville, or
okay.
This Is Us, who plays Kevin. Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah, lots of
Okay,
shows.
I think we might have to cut it off here because I have to prepare for things tomorrow.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, it was good talk with you guys again. Yeah, like always, if you have any thoughts on the podcast, you can leave in the comments.
Yeah, thanks again for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks guys. Yeah, we always enjoy having a talk, and
Peace out.
see you guys later.